What's going on, guys? Big welcome to you all to our channel. We are team crushing the meta. You're here with D-Boy. I'm here for you guys with a deck profile on Turbo Spike. I've already done 2 videos on our channel with the latest support from Premium Collection 2020, and there are 3 decks that I'm working on, and this is the 3rd one. The first one was the Aggro Spike deck. That's a deck that has actually the most characteristics of Spike. It's more for aggro. It uses our new stride to its full potential, which is this guy, Verminous. And also it's a deck that has a lot of combo pieces in it, which makes it really interesting and a lot of fun to play. The second deck that we did a deck profile on is a balanced turbo deck. That's actually the most fun deck of them all. It's a deck that uses the vanilla mechanic, and it's called balance. It balances between combo pieces and vanillas, and also it balances between aggroing and turboing. That deck is actually a lot of fun to play. I think most fun of them all, and also the deck that I'm having a blast with. But when it comes to turboing, the deck that actually does the best is this deck. Reasons is that this deck has an answer against each and every deck. You could sometimes even not give your opponent any damage and still be able to win the game. So with all of that being said, let's jump into the deck profile, explain to you guys how this deck actually works and why it looks like this. If you're new to our channel, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like the video, and let us know in the comment section below which decks you are trying out in Premium when it comes to Spike or it comes to other clans. So for the grade 3 lineup, we play the 4 copies of the Good End Dragger. Good End Dragger being played as 4, we add in 2 Gun Wolves and then the 4 copies of Jelly Beans. So this is pretty much the lineup that I'm going with. Reasons for that is that you need your Jelly Beans to search out your heals. We don't play daily Mason in this deck, but you could play Mason. And with that, it would be even easier to search out your Mason, and your Mason could get your Good End Dragger. But because we are focusing on a format that you don't really give your opponent a lot of count blasts, we are not using these 2 card combo to Jelly Beans to Mason and Mason to Death Flag, and Death Flag will go to Good End Dragger. We are not using this 2/4 cards combo because we are focusing on not giving the opponent damage at all. You have Gun Wolf in here, which acts as a perfect card that puts your field back to your deck during your GB8 turn. You could put the cards back to your deck like Big Blow Ted, you put cards back like Tier, and with that you will be able to get more counter charges or more combo pieces back to your deck. So it's kind of the same as Good End Dragger. They're a good thing, the most important thing about their skills is actually the cost. They cost you to put cards back to your deck, which is a good thing. We still focus on Good End Dragger as the main grade 3 of the deck. Reasons is that Good End Dragger not only is a 1/1 when you ride into him, you get a marker, but he also comes out of your soul when you ride on top of him. He also kills the column, which means you could get rid of problematic cards. So that makes it a very important card to have in this deck. When we get to the grade 2 lineup, we play the 4 copies of Spike Bouncer and the 4 copies of Detonate Burrow, and then we add in 1 Devil Summoner and 1 Devil Dome. The thing is, you need your Spike Bouncers and your Burrows to be able to have a strong GB8 turn, right? So these 2 cards are important to play out for 4. You could also take 1 out to focus more on the other. If you do that, then you could just take out Tears as well. But I like both of them because they both give you a lot of advantage. Then when we talk about the ride targets, it's good to ride a grade 2, which is less than a 8k. Why? Because sometimes you just want to ride, especially if you go first and you still want to undercut your opponent's Vanguard. And most of the time your opponent will be sitting at a 8k, and that's why these are great to ride. Devil Summoner is in my eyes still a very good card because he could just get you advantage out of your deck. During the GB8 turn or in the early game, you could just put them out there, get advantage, you could just intercept with them, and that's really good. During the GB8 turn, you could take out all of your grade 3s and grade 0s out of your deck by calling them with the GB8, and then you could focus on Devil Summoner, which will be more consistent, getting you out the right combo pieces. We have Devil Dome in here because he is one of the few cards who could hit very high numbers, even if your opponent keep getting triggers. It's up to you to change it the way you want to. You could like do 2 Devil Domes, or you could do 2 Devil Summoners, or you could take these 2 out to add in like cards like Deadly Mason, cards like Mayhem Tiger. Pretty much up to you to do it the way that you want to, but I'm really having fun with testing with actually Devil Summoner, and Devil Dome sometimes just help you out to still hit your opponent's Vanguard, especially because you're keeping your opponent at 0 damage or at low damage. Then Devil Dome is very, very, very important. So if you want to make the deck the most consistent way that it would work, then you would just play 2 copies of Devil Dome, take the Devil Summoner out. But again, that's pretty much up to you. I'm having fun with the Devil Summoner. For the Grade 1 lineup, we play 4 copies of Big Blow Teds. This is the only Spike Brother card that we run in the Grade 1 lineup, which is kind of insane. But if you play Big Blow Ted or you play Wonder Boy, both of them actually act the same way. Because this deck keeps your opponent at low damage, I like Big Blow Ted more than Wonder Boy, but otherwise I would play Wonder Boy because Wonder Boy could put also triggers back to your deck. Big Blow Ted is a very good card to be able to put Spike Bouncer, Burrow, Gunwolf, Bad End Dragger back to your deck, so you could keep calling them, especially during the GB8 turn. He's a 10k shield, a 9k power, which makes him good. Especially the shield value is always nice. When we come to the Create Elementals, we actually play 4 copies of Larook. This is something that is stupid and insane, and people would say, hey D-Boy, why the hell are you playing this card at 4? It's because even if the upcoming formats will not be a Zazan format or whatever rush formats people think that it will be, this card is still so insanely good in this deck because you could just guard your opponent's Vanguard with just 1 card, and it acts just like a perfect guard in the early game. And you just don't want to lose too much hand advantage in the early game, and that's why this card helps a lot. So people maybe don't know how good this card is, but for me, with testing, I find it very satisfying to use. We add in only 3 copies of Tier. I have tried 4. You could take out a Larook to play a 4th one, or you could just take out Honolly to play a 4th one. But I find the one Honolly just good. He saves you sometimes. Sometimes you end even your GB8 turn with having the Honolly on the field, and then you go to your Neo Stride, and then the next turn you kill your opponents. It's it's like very good and very safe to have the Honolly in the deck, especially with having like the Murakumo loop, a lot of other different decks that could do multi-attacking. And because in this deck you still play your Mega Trainer, you could just get your Honolly to your hand easily, and you could just put it on the field, just leave it there, and Honolly will just chill there. Right, Tier is of course important because he gives you the counter charge, especially the counter charges that you need when we use Spike Bouncer. For the Grade Zeros, we run 2 copies of Mega Trainer as being the starter and being an extra card in the deck. I still find this good for me. It works. He's a 10k shield, and most importantly, he just gets you the right cards that you need to your hands. I didn't really find the 2 irritating. I didn't need a 3rd one, so I kept it the way it is. This is kind of an upgraded deck for the deck that I already played, right? With the Grade Zeros, we also have triggers, of course, so we run 4 copies of Lindsay, which being our heal trigger, and then 4 copies of our new crits. This is the reason why we could play the Larook, is because we took out the Acrobat Verdi. Acrobat Verdi being your stride folder was only a 5k, and this card is a 15k shield, and Larook is the 10k shield and could act as a perfect guard in the early game as long as you're on Grade 2, right? So this just add way more shield to the deck. These 2 look cute together, and of course you play her because she is searchable with your Jelly Beans, but also the counter charge and the soul charge is nice. Then we add in more cheerleaders to the deck, and that is our Merlin. Being the perfect guard of the deck, she acts as a perfect guard in the late game more than the early game because now you have the Rook. And last but not least, we add just more draws to the deck, so 4 more. I would love it if Bushroots will give us a cheerleader draw trigger, the vanilla draw from the new set when we get Rising, because we are getting Rising. Because from the newest anime, we have seen that we are getting Axe Diver back, and Axe Diver means Rising. So I'm happy. Alright, for the strides, we play 2 copies of Merindol, and then we also play 2 copies of Violence Ace. So these 2 act as your first, second stride. If you don't get to your GB8, he draws your cards, he flips you without counterblasting, and we still play the 1 copy of Seabreeze being the flip target for any of these. The reason why we don't play Cyclone in this deck, because we don't really play that much vanillas, and also Cyclone skill will never work when you use him with a GB8, because the GB8 will give that unit that is attacking or boosting an auto ability, which is the red text. So we're playing these 5 as 2-1-2 for the flip options, and this is as a flip target. Other stride options as a first stride is of course our Formido. Formido is good, especially if you play against decks or clans like Nobitama, which you just need the hand to guard. Then this card could just say, yo, you could just stride for free from that moment on. The Soul Charge is not as good in this deck as in the other decks, because the other decks use the new stride to its full potential, while this deck uses it differently. But the retirement power could be very important, especially if you could just you want to get rid of cards like Honolly from their field and you don't have a Good End Dragger. Then we have the GB8 in the deck, of course, being your main stride. We add in 1 Good End and we add in 1 Verminous. The thing is, these card acts very different. He could be a killer first stride or just a stride that gives you markers. The GB8 is your killer in this deck, and you only need 1 copy. And this is a card that you could use in between to get your GB8 or after your GB8. And I find him very important to run in this deck, especially if your GB8 turn did not work. Then the turn after that, you could go to him, especially because you will have enough soul because of the GB8. So it's kind of strange how you use this card in this deck. And if you really find it awkward, then I would take it out to play a second copy of the GB8. Pretty much up to you. With me testing, I find this card important to have at 1 in this deck. And I really never felt like needing a second copy of the GB8, except against Kagero, or against sometimes when you want your opponent to know that you play only 1 GB8. Then yes, you could take something else to add a second GB8 in the deck. For the Gigots, we play, of course, 1 Dismill and 1 Regatome. Then we add in 2 copies of Geese, and then we add the 3 copies of the Terrible Linus. This is your Gigards. They did not change. They stay at 7, and there's no reason to make it different. Also want to go back and talk about Seabreeze, because people are taking Seabreeze very fast out of their deck. This deck actually really benefit from having that GB1, because then you would need only 3 Gigards to get your GB8, because you could just you already have GB1, so you use 1 flipper to flip something, and then on the next attack you use 2 flippers right away to flip 2 more, and then you end up with having the GB7 to get your GB8. So yeah, it's pretty much up to the player to play Seabreeze or not, but as long as the deck benefits from having the Seabreeze, why not use it? Alright, the deck is actually very simple. You need enough defense to get your GB8. If your opponent gives you a lot of counterblasts, then cards like Spike Bouncer could abuse that for your advantage. Rush the rear guards back and do not really give them enough counterblasts to make a big turn. You have for the defensive options cards like Honolly that you could search, and cards like Lerouk, of course, who could just act as a perfect guard as long as you're in grade 2 or less. And that's why it's also not that irritating to be sitting on a 6k or 7k in the early game, because pretty much it doesn't matter as long as you have some defensive cards in your hand like this. The attack will be perfect guarded anyway, so so that's good. The only thing that you could change about this deck are 2 things actually. First one is having a second GB8 in the deck, yes or no? And if you want to, then I would say take one of these out. That's my personal opinion. And if you want to change your grade 2 lineup to something different, again, you could add in the Deadly Mason, because you could search them out with your Jelly Beans. You could add in, if you add in the Deadly Mason, I would advise you to add at least one copy of Death Flag. You only need to do 1/1, and then you just take out the Devil Summoner, you add in the Deadly Mason, and you could add in also a Mayhem Tiger. But if you don't want to play these, or you don't have them, and you also do not want to use Mayhem Tiger, or you don't really know how to use him the right way, then I would just say take out the Devil Summoner and play in a second Devil Dome. Alright, that was actually it for the deck. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. This is still a deck that I play when I want to play a serious match. More often when I'm just having fun with friends, I will be playing the balance deck. Although like Zazan is getting so much hate, we are just having fun with it. I'm not saying that the card is broken or not broken. I think that we'll definitely do something about it when we see like a lot of results only having Zazan decks. But for now, let's just have a little bit fun with it and enjoy it as long as we could play it. And then when the card will be taken out, then we will definitely fall back and use other deck options that that doesn't really play it. So that was actually it for the deck profile. I hope that you guys enjoyed it, and I would like to thank you for watching, and keep our channel in check. We'll be having way more deck profiles for you guys with the upcoming support from Premium Collection 2020. And also, I've been upgrading my Spike Brother standard deck to be able to function in the Vanguard format. But because we don't really have a lot of tournaments right now, me myself focusing more on having a little bit fun with the game, changing the decks around, and just enjoying myself and having some fun with friends, right? So again, thanks guys for watching for the third time, and till next time.